Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Just Because Wrestling. And we have a very esteemed guest on the podcast this week. It is, of course, one of Ireland's fastest rising stars, one half of the Woe Queens herself, Debbie Keitel. Debbie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. Thanks a million for coming on.
No problem at all. Happy to be a part of it.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. So I suppose we'll just crack straight into it, will we? I suppose, unless you have anything you want to get off your chest before we start, anything you want to talk about first?
No, I won't bore you with my problems.
No, we're good listeners on this show. We've actually become quite a therapy session. So we had Butch Armstrong on a couple of weeks ago, and that turned into a bit of a therapy session with him confiding in us in some things. So
that's nice.
Yeah. You have to make some promises that he now has to keep. So be careful what you say, Debbie, because we will hold you to everything you say. And every future show you're on from now on, we will be there with signs saying you promised. You promised.
Noted.
All right, so we'll get cracking. So, I suppose, Debbie, you're fairly new into your wrestling career. As you know, you're fairly young into your wrestling career. I suppose I should say you're only, as far as I know, you're only a pro since 2017. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, that's correct. I debuted, I think it was May 5th, 2017.
Yeah. So coming up on the 4-year anniversary. So I suppose before we when you kind of decided that you wanted to pursue this professional wrestling career, who were your biggest influences, coming into the wrestling world? Who were you watching that you said, you know what, they are inspired me to come into this, to go into this business?
The likes of X-Pac, China, Victoria, Ivory, Christian, Bret Hart, just all your 90s classic wrestlers. I started watching probably 96, 97. Yeah. And obviously, my wrestling journey didn't start until a couple of years, good few years later. But I when I was growing up, I was just obsessed with X-Pac because he was one of the smaller guys.
Yeah.
And I just thought he was so cool. I loved his character. He was like a bad guy, rocker guy. And yeah, I was just obsessed with him. I remember my dad had a videotape of Lightning Kid versus Razor Ramon. And I remember my dad trying to explain to me that Lightning Kid was 1-2-3 Kid and was also X-Pac. And I was like, you're lying. Like, why are you lying? Just being like a kid thinking you know it all. And then eventually, like a few years later, it clicks and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that all wrestling fans kind of go through. That when you look at the 1-2-3 Kid and you look at X-Pac, they look totally different. And trying to figure out, or once that kind of dawns on you and you realize that they're the same person, it's quite hard to believe at the start. So it's interesting because I actually went through the same when I grew up about X-Pac and the 1-2-3 Kid.
Yeah, I think it was like the one piece and the mullet and like the clean shaven face. I don't know, he just looked completely different to compare to like kind of the stubbly beard, the bandana and everything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still going through that every now and again. I still wonder who people are and how they were people before. Oh man, it freaks me out. But yeah, crazy.
But I suppose going into that, and because you're so short in your career, you've you must have a long list of people that you want to face. So I'll put you on the spot and ask you, in terms of a dream match, if you were to pick one person that you'd want to wrestle that you could say then you've made it or your career is complete, who would that be?
Oh, it has to be Emi Sakura for sure.
Yeah.
She's just been a huge influence on me, and she really helped me kind of come out of my shell. I was really fortunate to train with her and work with her, and every time she's over in the UK, she's usually brought over by Pro Wrestling Eve, And every time I meet her, she's just so giving and so thoughtful. And I just know that like everyone kind of pictures like or envisions like what they think their dream match or their perfect match would be, or the match they know. Everyone's kind of waiting to have that match where they're so proud of it, and I genuinely believe that would be the match.
Yeah, I mean, she's an incredible wrestler herself, and she's a woman who kind of, if you weren't into Joshi wrestling and you weren't into the Japanese scene, you probably wouldn't have heard of her. But of course, AEW kind of gave her that platform to perform in front of a wider audience and kind of show her uniqueness and her charisma. And like you mentioned that like she helped you come out of your shell, and you got some time you spent some time training under her. Did you find like a major difference between Japanese and European wrestling? Because like when we had Speedball Mike Bailey on a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about the differences in kind of European, Japanese, Mexican wrestling and stuff. Did you find a major difference between the European, UK, Irish style and the Japanese style?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think with the Irish style, it's kind of a mixture between that British technical style and kind of the American wrestling that you see in WWE, like that old school kind of wrestling.
Yeah.
Irish wrestling is kind of a combination of that. So when I went over, I found it very daunting, even the way they trained, in regards to how they put a match together. I think a lot of up and coming wrestlers, or trainees, or people that are just starting off, get it into their head that there is a formula, and this is the structure of a match, and you can't veer from that, because no one can understand the match if you veer from the formula. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And I think that's what's so amazing about Japanese style wrestling, is that it's not that there's no rules, it's just they're allowing builds. There's hope spots, and there's comebacks, and there's fall season, there's everything that you'd have in your standard match, but it's just the way they build it. They're not giving anything away for free. Everything is structured, it's worked, there's a reason behind every move, every look, every character moment. It's very emotional and very story based, and they've focused on holds and submissions a lot more, and it's kind of less I suppose showy, if that makes sense, and more about the actual sport. So there's kind of less focus on the entertainment side of things. Now, granted, it's extremely entertaining, and there's many different styles, from comedy to deathmatch style, hardcore, technical submission. Like there's so many different styles in Japan. It's not just one style, but it's just the way they capture an audience is just completely different.
Yeah, it's literally like, they get almost like 6 months worth of storytelling into a 30-minute match.
For sure. Like when you put on a Japanese match, you're in it for the long haul. So it's not a kind of an introduction, your start, your middle, and your end. It's like a story.
And you can definitely see that when you watch like New Japan and these places compared to an AEW or a WWE, where like an American wrestling crowd will be kind of into the match like from the get-go, from the bell, but like it seems with Japanese style you kind of have to work for it more, but not necessarily that they're not into the match. Their culture, we've heard like a lot as wrestling fans, like the culture of it being more respectful and more respectful and more kind of quiet. And then towards the end, when you're getting to the finish, especially in kind of the big dome matches for New Japan, once the crowd are hooked in, then like for a Kazuchika Okada match or an Ibushi match, and you can hear like they do get to that, like they do reach the point of like being very, very into the match towards the end, but it's a slow build, which is kind of interesting to see as a fan too.
Yeah,
for sure, absolutely. Like it's almost like you'd almost compare it. It is looked at as a sport, and Japan is like the Disneyland for wrestling.
Yeah.
And like if you were to watch a golf tournament, You know, it's all very exciting until the moment where they have to hit that shot, and it's very quiet. And that's kind of how I describe it, is that they're being respectful of the people in the ring, and they're applauding the great work that they're seeing. And then towards the end, when they know that there has to be an outcome, that's when the excitement comes. That's when, you know, there's going to be a winner determined, and that's when the crowd kind of goes wild. But in those smaller shows that are not necessarily in arenas, like for instance, I worked for Gato Move, which you all probably know as Choco Pro now.
Yeah.
And that whole location is basically the size of like a box bedroom, and you know, in that setting it's a lot more intimate, so you have a lot more crowd reaction, so they're not afraid to interact with you, especially when you're using one of them as a rope or a turnbuckle, because there's no ring in that location. It's a Thai style that Emi brought over to Thailand and then brought back to Japan. It's basically resting on, I suppose, what you call a mattress.
Yeah.
And it's about creating the story around that and within that small confined space.
Yeah. No, I mean, like the Japanese have certainly, they've taken the sport of professional wrestling, and they've kind of made it their own in a way. They've kind of morphed it into something that they, you know, that is completely unique to that part of the world. And you know, staying on the topic of Emi Sakura, I suppose, like, when you see someone you've trained under competing for a world title on an AEW pay-per-view, like, you know, last year, or was it 2 years ago now, that she was on the show competing against Rio for the women's world title, and you see her and you know you've studied under her. Does that inspire you that, like, you know, that will be me someday? Because, you know, if I follow her footsteps, that will be me someday.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no way you couldn't get inspired by someone like Emi. Her talents have been hidden for years, and the fact that she finally got on the big stage, it's just hope for anyone. Like, it doesn't matter how long it takes you or how old you are or where you are in your life, that the option is there. And you know, it's so motivating to know that it's never too late. Doesn't matter where you are in your life, you could still end up, you know, at the Mecca.
Yeah. I suppose BP being the classic example, I suppose, going back to WCW, didn't start training until he was 36, was it? And
36, 37, I think, yeah. And you know, look at him flying it.
He's probably in better shape now than he was
Isn't
back
it?
then.
Yeah.
Probably is, yeah. Yeah, probably is.
But staying like sorry there. So go, like we mentioned earlier that your career has only been kind of three or 4 years now, but you know, you've made a big name for yourself in the Irish scene in such a short space of time. So does that give you confidence then that you're on the right path to like a big career? Like we mentioned, Emi Sakura at AEW. You've wrestled for NXT UK. Do you think you're on the path to there, or do you see your career going elsewhere, maybe to Japan or somewhere?
Obviously I'd love to go back to Japan, and that's never out of the question. But I don't want to put I suppose a finish to my journey. I don't want to pinpoint where I want to go or anything like that, because I think that's when you actually end up putting a roadblock in front of you. Because if you're so focused on that one place, you're missing out on everything along the way. So I just have that mentality where if it's meant to be, it will be. And I just take it day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. And I seem to be doing okay. So I'm going to keep that positive mentality, and you never know where you'll end up.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you mean. Like, I think that's the same in wrestling, and it's the same in life. Like, you know, I mean, like, I was, you know, without getting too much into it, like, I was a person who had, you know, when I was younger, I had a plan, and I had a destination in my head that I was like, okay, that's where I'm ending up. And then I didn't end up there. And then obviously that completely threw me into disarray and completely threw me off course, and I didn't know what to do with myself. So you kind of have to, and then it was then, you know, only then I realized you kind of have to roll with the punches, and you kind of have to realize you have to kind of adapt to life and overcome, you know, what it throws at you. So like you could have, because that's the thing. I mean, you can have a destination in your head. You could say, oh, I want to end up in AEW. I want to end up in WWE. I want to end up in NXT or whatever. And, you know, that call might never come. And then you're left wondering, oh, well, what have I wasted in my career? So I think the right attitude, you definitely have the right attitude in the sense that like, oh, you know, I'll keep my head down. I'll keep grinding, keep working, keep pushing towards the next day. Not years and years down the line, just the next day. And, you know, you get there and like that. I mean, you'll find success that way anyway, you know, and you'll find not just success, but happiness as well, you know.
See, I told you this was going to become a therapy session.
That's it.
Very
like,
profound, this podcast.
I think if you force yourself just to focus on one thing, you'll end up getting lost and you'll never actually reach the destination because, you know, at some point you're going to get scared. Do I actually want to do this? You know, am I going to self-sabotage because, you know, what if I'm not actually good at this? There's so many things that get in the way, whereas if you just focus on the present and let it take you on the journey almost, as opposed to trying to control every little thing. Like that's something I struggled with all my life, is just controlling everything. Okay, by this age I'm going to do this, and by that age I'm going to do that. Like if I was to do what I thought I was going to do at 17, which I actually already did, which was move to New York, work in film and TV, and I realized that as much fun as I had, you know, I wasn't comfortable or happy mentally because I was drained, because I had to work every single day. I had no downtime. I had no life. So sometimes it's not always, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So that's why it's important to try things and, you know, go down a different path, get a job that you hate, like you wanted to try and figure out if you like it or hate it. You know, try all these different things and eventually you'll find something that fits, and then you just take it day by day, because if you plan everything to a T, you're just setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, even outside of the wrestling scape. I think that's just very good life advice there, Debbie. So I commend you for that. Speaking of which, of advice, what's the best piece of advice you've been given, whether it be in the wrestling space or outside it?
I get asked this question a lot. I suppose it's, you know, in any aspect of life, if you're going to get criticized, and I suppose it's up to you whether or not you take that criticism on board. So anytime, you know, someone's critiquing my work, whether it be in reality or in the wrestling world or in the sports world, whatever you want to call it, if someone's critiquing my work, I always look at who's doing it. And if I would switch places with them, I would happily take on their advice or their criticism. But if I wouldn't, I take it with a pinch of salt. So I always just say that if someone's critiquing your work, would you happily switch places with them? Would you swap shoes? And if you would, great, take the advice on board. But if you wouldn't, just take it with a pinch of salt.
Well, yeah, that's great advice again.
I'm here all day.
Yeah. I mean, maybe a new career path for you, motivational speaker.
You know, Jack is the marketing whiz behind this whole thing. He'll have to hire you as a kind of for conferences and you know, bring businesses to the next level.
My brain's already ticking.
But now you owe like all your millions you're gonna make in your market. So yeah, I mean, you talk about like the best advice you've been given. You know, I was gonna ask you what's been your favorite match so far, but I suppose to kind of alter that a small bit, I want to say, like, in your head, has there been a match where you, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be your favorite, but has there been a match where you've gone out there, you know, opening bell to closing bell, and you came back, you went back to the locker room and you went, Joel, I absolutely smashed that. That was my best match. Like, and I know it seems like that would be your favorite match, but sometimes, you know, there was something off, you know, you were not in a bad mood or whatever, or, you know, the crowd wasn't exactly, you know, there for you or whatever, or there was a small crowd or whatever. And you know, but you went out there and you gave 110% and you had an absolute belter of a match. Is there one match in your head that sticks out to you as like, that is the match of my career so far?
I'm going to go in a different direction for this one, because I would normally say it would be the Woe Queens versus Ginny and Kanji at Pro Wrestling Eve. That's definitely a match that I'm proud of on paper, and was definitely a high point in my career, and really is one of my favorite matches. But I think my favorite match where it all clicked and it just felt right, and there was just, I'm a big fan of moments and in wrestling matches, and I think my favorite match today has to be myself and Amy Alonzi versus Lana Austin and Casey Owens for OTT Defiant 2. I think that was the last match to take place in the Tivoli. We had to follow Shane Strickland and Bandito, and basically follow them, but start the all-female show. So we were the opener as well, and it was, you know, in the opening spot, it's your responsibility to get the audience into the show, get them up, get them entertained, and get them, you know, on their feet. And obviously we were brand new, only starting out, and I think we both left that ring feeling like we left everything out there, put our heart and soul into it, and it's genuinely one of my proudest moments in my entire career.
Yeah, I mean, because of course, like that's always a tough position to be in, you know. And there's, like, as the saying goes, if you're not in the main event, you want to be in the opening match, because they're usually the two matches people remember. And you know, it can be a really hard spot to be in, because, like you said there, you have to get the crowd into it, you have to set the pace, and you know, you have to give people an idea of what they're in store for. And yeah, I mean,
like, even when you're a kid and you're watching Raw, you know X-Pac is going to be in the opener. Like, you know he's going to open the show, and it's going to be a really, really exciting 20-minute match. And that's what we were thinking about going in. We were like, how can we make this really, really fun and show off what we can do? And it was just a dream of a match. Like, we couldn't have gone any better for us.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and hopefully you'll have many, many more to come just like that. And you know, I suppose to kind of bring that into it, you know, who do you see among your fellow Irish female wrestlers, who you reckon will make it big, or you reckon, you know, like they are, you know, they're going to be standouts, they're going to be champions? Who do you see, and who do you pinpoint?
I mean, there's no point including girls here that are already kind of established and have been over to the UK. So I want to kind of put a spotlight on some kind of local talent that are working the ranks. And I believe that if you know, we hadn't landed ourselves in a pandemic, I do believe that people would be more aware of their talent. I'm going to start off with Anita Vaughn. She is a local talent in Phoenix Wrestling.
Yeah.
I think if she had 2020, I believe everyone would be talking about her. She's got a great character, great look, and she's a lovely person. Like, at the end of the day, if you can be around people 365 days a year, that's what gets signed. That's what gets hired. You want to be a good person in and out of the ring, and she is extremely talented. And, you know, I think a lot of people could learn from her in terms of promos and mic skills and stuff like that. Another girl I want to shine a bit of light on is Emma Louise. She's based in Fight Factory Pro Wrestling, and she's just a kid, but I know, like, when she hits 2021, she's going to be everywhere and anywhere. She's just a really determined girl, and I was privileged enough to be her first match, and I think she's going to go all the way.
Yeah.
And then if we head up north, there's a talent from Belfast called Sky James. And I think as well that if 2020, you know, wasn't such a shit show, I believe that she would have had her time in the limelight. So there's tons of local talent coming up. We have so many girls. We have Myla Grace, who's broken into the UK now. She's also a Belfast talent, and she's working more so in the UK. And I think, so many of us were put kind of to the sidelines because of the pandemic. So there's tons of girls that really, deserve a bit of exposure and to be mentioned in this.
Yeah, like it's something we've talked about, like when we had Butch on and we had Speedball on, and it's something we've talked about where like the Irish scene, to me, and I've said this now 2 or 3 times, but it's like a tap that's it's like a leaky tap, and it's just dripping now, but someone's going to come along soon and turn on the faucet, and it's like there's going to be a flood of Irish talent, I reckon, on the independents and in the the so-called big leagues in the coming years. I reckon that, like everything else, our names will be on it, and we, like, the Irish will be known, will be a staple, like Japan, like Mexico, like America, like Canada, in the professional wrestling scene. I mean, we already are, in a sense. Like we've produced some of the biggest names over the last 10 years, but like I reckon you'll be hard pressed to find a show that doesn't have at least one Irish wrestler in the next 10 years.
Absolutely. Like when you think about it, Irish wrestling is still so new. Like we've only kind of in the last, like, say 6 or 7 years really become a style to see, a must watch scene, so I mean it can only get better, it can only increase with the way the schools are just churning out talent at the moment. Like you said, there'll be a time where you won't be able to swing a cat without hitting an Irish wrestler in the UK.
Yeah, there's too many talent at the moment for it not to be the case. Like you look at OTT and the talent that they're churning out, like yourself, Debbie, MTH. I seem to mention MTH in every podcast now at this point, but like someone like Raven Creed and all these talents, like it's only, and like Valkyrie, who's just gone to NXT UK. There's, like you said, you won't be able to swing a cat without hitting an Irish person, I'd say, in a major wrestling locker room soon. So I suppose the one thing I wanted to ask you about, and it's one thing that you've incorporated in your social media and somewhat in your gimmick. So the story behind the coffee. Like
Jack Sart as well. I mean,
I'm a fellow coffee addict myself. So that's something that I was drawn to at the start. So talk to me behind that and your love for coffee and how
I'll come back.
And how that was incorporated into your gimmick.
Like I went throughout college, I suppose my bachelor's degree, I went throughout college having never taken a sip of coffee.
Oh.
And I don't know, I look back now and think, how did I survive those college years? But it wasn't until I went to Paris. And when I was in Paris, my friend was like, let's get espressos and just, a baguette and just, be those girls. And, you're like, when in Paris. So I ordered an espresso, and the minute it hit my lips, I was like, oh my God, that's so strong. And I was like, I asked, I said, oh, do you mind if I got some milk? He's like, stupid Irish girl. Like, you wouldn't ruin a good steak. Why would you ruin a good coffee? And I was like, okay. And he was like, always drink it black. He was like, from this moment on, you're an Irish girl and you will only drink your coffee black. And that kind of, traumatized me as well as stayed with me. And then I moved to New York, and it's just coffee. Like all you do is drink coffee because you're working 24/7. You do not have time to sleep or eat. You drink coffee, and that is how you sustain the lifestyle. And I just got to try out so many different coffee shops, and I suppose that's when I kind of became a coffee snob. And it wasn't about like Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, even though Dunkin' Donuts is my favorite coffee of all time. But there's
That was
just
my next question.
we'll come back to that. But yeah, and that's when I started trying the underground coffee shops, local coffee shops. So when I came home, then I was like, I'm not drinking a Costa. I'm not drinking a Starbucks. Like I only drink underground local like just being a snob. And then yeah, like you just it just became a thing because it was no longer, I felt like I was actually just being myself. So the coffee thing kind of came in because, I get a coffee when I got to the airport. I'd get a coffee when I got off the plane. I'd have to get a coffee before I got in the car to the venue. I'd have to get a coffee at the venue. And it just became this thing where it was like, is this girl okay? Like she obviously has an addiction or some sort of problem. And then I kind of incorporated it into, my move set, and we had little skits and stuff like that. These are the moments that I love creating in wrestling matches. That just little bit of lightheartedness and entertainment before you really get into it and stuff. But yeah, I suppose it all started in Paris.
Yeah, that story is actually funny about Paris and the coffee, because as soon as you said milk, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's
He
like
loved
it actually
like I had 10 heads. He was like, you Irish girls and your milk and your dairy. I was like, what? Like he must like have visioned me in an apron out the back, like with cows, like getting my milk locally sourced. Like, but
yeah,
yeah,
it reminds me
from
of
that moment, I was like, I'm never having coffee or never having milk in my coffee ever again.
it actually reminds me of a story. I was in a bar one time, and a guy came up next to me, obviously not local, just kind of, sampling Irish culture and all this, and came in and looking for Guinness, and said, can I get a bit of Raza and that or something? And the barman, yeah, I won't repeat what the barman said, but
Yeah.
you could just imagine. But it just reminded me of that story. But
Yeah.
go on, Jack. Sorry, finish your point.
Oh no, go on if you want to jump on that point, because I was just going to go to the last question. So.
Oh no, because I was just saying, like I was a barman for 6 years, and I remember these two lads came in before, and they were like two roughs, let's say, two of the local toughs, and we didn't want to serve them anyway. We weren't going to serve them, and but of course, your man asks for a pint of Guinness with some blackcurrant. I let him go, and you are ruining your reputation here, fella. I mean, I'm way less likely to give you money out of the till now. Like, I mean, I'm gonna laugh at you, but so do you want the money out of the till to put in your purse, do you? But no, that's bar work. So I got introduced to coffee as well. Just literally you're working 10-hour shifts at night, drinking that, you'd be grand. And like horrible stuff as well, proper like out of a jar. Thank you.
So getting on to that, you mentioned Dunkin' Donuts as your favorite coffee. You also mentioned that you don't do kind of in Ireland like the big brands, and you don't do like the Costas and stuff like that. So I suppose to give a bit of love to the local coffee places, name some of your favorite cafes in Ireland.
Oh, I'm not going to be able to mention any from Cork, because unfortunately, any time I've been down in Cork, I am literally going from a car to a venue.
Yeah.
So the closest coffee is usually a petrol station or a McDonald's. So we won't give them credit. In Dublin, there's a gorgeous place called Bear. They have the best coffee in Dublin. In Kildare, there's a place called Square Coffee. It's like a really like chocolatey kind of ginger flavor. Oh, it's amazing.
I'm writing all these down now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't been, around Ireland in a while. I've been kind of stuck here now for a while. But in Galway, there's a place called Della, and it's all organic, locally sourced food, and they have the most amazing coffee as well. I really need to be better and explore more coffee shops. I think that's a big thing for me now. Once, restrictions are lifted and we can travel again, to just explore more coffee shops and stuff like that. Because I'm a big foodie as well as a coffee lover. So
Sack
be
off the
nice.
wrestling and just drink coffee full time.
I probably will, to be honest. It's been a waste of time up until this point.
And like you said, you're never too late to start. I mean, your life can just be coffee drinking from now on.
I can just be paid to drink coffee, and I can't imagine life any other way now. So
Yeah,
I think you're responsible for me retiring to become a professional coffee drinker.
Well, listen, I definitely think there's opportunity for a sponsorship deal in terms of coffee. There has to be. That's the marketing brain ticking in my head now.
Jack, do you have any coffee shop suggestions for Debbie when she comes down to Cork next?
I was actually going to get onto that. The one place I would recommend would be Cork Coffee Roasters, which there's two in Cork City, so it'd be close proximity to where you'd normally be anyway for the shows and stuff. So if you ever get the chance and get some downtime in Cork City, Cork Coffee Roasters, I definitely recommend. And other than that, then not really.
There's a new spot. There's a new spot, Rebel Coffee. Have you got that, Jack, yet?
No.
There's a new spot. It's actually literally next door to Cork Coffee Roasters on Paul Street, and it's called Rebel Coffee. And the only thing is, if you like your coffee bitter, I'd go there. They use this coffee called Badger and Dodo, and
they're good. Yeah, I've had them, Badger and Dodo.
Yeah. It's quite
Badger
bitter.
and Dodo coffee is gorgeous.
Yeah. No, so if you like that, go there, because I think that's the only one they use. But and like, I suppose before I let you go, David, I'll just finish you up with a nice coffee story there that happened just today, because it might make you that knows what I'm talking about. So I was up in my local supermarket. It was an Aldi, and I was picking up a few bits. Next thing, I was passing down and I saw that they had. I realized in my head, I was like, I haven't had, because I used to have a coffee machine, but then that kind of broke, so I had to get rid of it. And I haven't had coffee in the house really since. So because I'm primarily a tea drinker. And so anyway, I saw this coffee in the middle aisle, and I was like, oh, Becca must pick that up. And I was reading, it was like Nicaraguan and, hints of chocolate and, it made it sound really nice. And I was like, yeah, take that. It was only like €2 as well for the bag. So I was like, yeah, grab that. And took it anyway, paid for it, went home. So I got home and I was like, I'll make a cup of coffee now before my next lecture in college, and I'll just, enjoy that now. And opened it, and I was like, oh, it smells lovely, I can't wait for this. Looked in, and it was just a bag of beans. And I realized that I had no coffee grinder, no press, nothing besides a kettle and a cup. I was trying to make this fancy ass Nicaraguan coffee. I mean, so fancy, I suppose. But so now I have a bag of coffee beans in my cupboard that I'd probably never use.
Here's a tip, because this happened to me recently, where I was gifted a bag of coffee, but they accidentally picked up whole beans instead of grounded. So I was recently in Starbucks, and I just said, look, this is a really random question, but I was recently gifted coffee beans, and I don't have a grinder. Do you offer any kind of service where if I bring the bag into you that you can grind it? And she was like, yeah, no problem. Just bring it in and we'll do that for you.
Oh, there you go.
So, don't throw it out just yet.
Yeah, no, I was trying to pawn it off on Jack, but he doesn't have a grinder either. And then and I was like trying to think of some, and then I texted one of the other lads, and he says he doesn't drink coffee, and I was like, oh right, okay, well, I guess this is mine now, and I'll grow coffee plants or something. But
I wonder, could you put it in a blender?
Maybe.
In my you went to blender. In my head, I was going to start crushing them under a butter knife or something, and just do.
Get out a rolling pin. Put them into a bag and get out a rolling pin.
Hammer, but just back over him in the drive with the car.
But
yeah. So
listen, we've talked over our time. We promised we'd have you out a quarter past. It's now 18 minutes past. So apologies for that. So we'll let you go now. If you have anything you want to plug or tell us where to find, tell everyone where they can find you on social media and stuff.
Sure. So you can find me on the toxic site that is Twitter at Debbie Keitel. You can find me on Instagram, which I tend to kind of opt for Instagram more so lately, at the_Debbie_Keitel. You can contact me by email, debbiekeitelofficial@gmail.com. And I'm going to have some new merchandise coming out mid-March, and you can purchase that at debbiekeitel.bigcartel.com.
Very good.
When that merchandise and stuff comes out, we'll be sure to share that on our social media and repeat that then on the podcast once that's out. So
thank you so much.
No problem at all. So Debbie, thanks for coming on. Hopefully once wrestling's back up again, we'll see you at a show sometime. We'd love to have you back on at some point as well once shows are back up and running as well. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to be back on again, and listen, best of luck with everything for 2021, guys.
Thanks, Debbie. Appreciate that. Jack, you still there?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, cool. I think Debbie's gone, I think. Yeah.
No, I'm going to head off now. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Debbie. Cool. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye-bye.
Okay. Yeah, so
that was Debbie.
Debbie just left there now. So yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that was Debbie Keitel. It was a really cool interview, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You hear me?
Now she's gone, we can talk about her now. But
well, this is still part of the podcast.
Yeah, I know it is. I'm only joking. Or am I? No, I'm joking. So yeah, so Debbie unfortunately could only give us till 8:15. She was sound enough to give us till 20 past. So and we'll definitely have her on again. I mean, she's one of the fastest rising stars in Ireland, So she's you keep an eye out because she's going to be big. So Jack,
I was just going to say definitely someone who, from speaking to her there, is someone who, even for so short in her career, has her head firmly screwed on. You know what I mean? Like, some of the advice there she gave was incredible for someone that's only been in the industry 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, she's got the right mentality, and once you have that, that's half the battle.
Yeah, that's one thing I've actually enjoyed about since we've had guests on here, is that listening to their mentalities, because especially the wrestlers we've had on so far, I know it's only 3 of them, but they've all had brilliant mentalities towards wrestling, but they've all been different as well, but positively different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. So, yeah.
So yeah, again, and another thing I want to point out is another shout out to podcast alumni Speedball Mike Bailey for giving us a shout out on Twitter yesterday. When asked about what podcasts he recommends, he was kind enough to tweet us or to tag us and say he had a great time speaking to us, which is always a nice thing to hear as well.
Yeah, I mean that was just the nicest thing ever. You know what I mean? So yeah,
he's such a nice man. I logged onto his Twitch stream last night, and I just realized as I was watching it that I actually didn't follow him on Twitch, and I just clicked follow while it was on, and he obviously saw, and he was like, "Oh, thank you for the follow." I was like, "You're such a nice person."
No, if you're ever to if you ever to portray a stereotype, he is literally the nice Canadian man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He is that guy. So yeah, Jack. I mean, I suppose outside of our interviews now, we do have a big show ahead of us this weekend. It is, of course, AEW Revolution, the first AEW pay-per-view of 2021. And yeah, it's a stacked card. we're gonna break it down there now for you and run it down match by match. Give you our predictions, what we think of the matches, and so on and so forth. So yeah, unless there's anything you want to talk about first before we get into it.
No, like all my. Oh, actually, we'd be remiss to mention the death of Jim Crocker Jr. yesterday, which is very, obviously very unfortunate for all fans of the 80s. And I think the best thing, well, obviously him dying and him passing away was never a good thing. Obviously, it's thoughts with his family, but the kind of one takeaway from fans or for fans is that he got to do a sit down interview, or Conrad Thompson got to do a sit down interview with him like only a few weeks back. So, it's great to have that in the legacy and stuff. And plus, he's doing Conrad Thompson and Tony Schiavone are doing a run back throughout the whole year of 1986 in Jim Crocker Promotions, which is like one of the biggest. Well, it is the biggest year in Jim Crocker Promotions. It's the year of the Midnight and Rock and Roll Express feud, the formation of the Four Horsemen, and the rise of Ric Flair, really. So it's good that people have been, since the turn of the year, have been watching that and being able to have their eyes open to Jim Crocker Promotions and what Jim Crocker Jr. was able to contribute to the business, and they'll continue to do that for the year. But sad times. What is there to say about a man who brought wrestling to a bigger height than he found it, and obviously that bled into the creation of WCW. So God only knows what the wrestling business would look like if Jim Crocker Jr. wasn't or didn't exist. So
No, I mean, rest in peace to Jim. I mean, just like you said, an absolute trailblazer of the industry who, like you said again, who knows what way the wrestling world would look right now if Jim Crocker never got involved. So yeah, rest well, Jim. So I suppose on the back of that, we'll get on to AEW Revolution.
Actually, sorry, no, I'm going to keep interrupting. Sorry, before we start as well, I just wanted to because I'm conscious of getting into AEW and just forgetting some wrestling news. But the one thing I wanted to mention as well about NXT moving to Tuesday nights, it's not confirmed yet.
Not confirmed.
But, by the looks of things, if all reports are to be believed, they will move the Tuesday after WrestleMania, which again will be interesting.
I mean, William Regal said on NXT this week that next week he's going to be making an announcement that will change the course of NXT or whatever.
Yeah.
That's probably it. If not, the next takeover as well. It's probably both. So yeah, I mean, it's probably for the best. I mean, Twitter just had its fun with the Tony Khan making Triple H submit and going to Tuesday nights, admitting defeat and all this. I don't think it's anything to do with that, because I was thinking about the other day, and obviously, the rating, they do care about the ratings, because if the ratings are terrible, then they don't get a TV show. So obviously they do want good ratings. But I think at the end of the day, especially Triple H and especially Cody Rhodes, I don't know how much I can say for Tony Khan. He seems like a genuine fan of wrestling, and he seems to actually appreciate it. But at the end of the day, he is a businessman, whereas Triple H and Cody Rhodes are wrestlers first. I think at the end of the day, once they're putting out the best product they possibly can, they don't really care about the ratings. Do you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, you know, if there's fantastic wrestling being produced on a weekly basis, then, you know, then everyone's a winner. So plus, you know, if NXT moves to Tuesdays, then, you know, it benefits everyone, because that means if people want to watch both Dynamite and NXT, they can, without having to do split screen and, you know, not having all their focus on one show. But
and I'd imagine for like the wrestling reporters and wrestling journalists, like for instance someone like Sean Ross Sapp, I'd imagine that would make his life a whole lot easier rather than having to live tweet 2 shows at once. Because I saw him doing that last night, and I was like, God, that must be hard. I was live tweeting. I was barely able to live tweet one. I was watching Dynamite, and I was finding it tough.
Yeah, because that's one thing I always wondered about. I was like, do they pick one show a week and then just do that one? But I saw he was doing both shows last night, and I was like, how was he even focused? I mean, like,
yeah.
But yeah, look, it's not confirmed yet, but it seems fairly likely to happen. So hopefully when it does happen, we'll see an increase in ratings all around. But yeah, time will tell, I guess. Yep. So now can I get into the card without you interrupting me again?
You hold that. No, I'm joking. Yes, you can.
All right. So we'll kick things off as we always do on the pre-show or the buy-in or the kickoff show or whatever the hell you want to call it. That little half an hour show that happens before the actual pay-per-view.
That was very aggressive.
No,
you sound like cranky ass JR. You like the buy-in or the pre-show, whatever the hell you call it.
Yeah, you know, that one. That I think AEW call it the buy-in. So yeah, we have one match on the buy-in. It is a tag team match. It's tag team action in the women's division. It is the team of Riho and Thunder Rosa taking on Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Rebel or Reba. I'm not sure if she's Reba when she's not wrestling and Rebel when she is wrestling. I'm not sure.
But it's Rebel, not Reba.
Is it?
That's her. That's what Tony Khan said today when I was listening to the AEW Unrestricted podcast. So I am going to take Tony Khan's word for it.
Okay.
So
he's Rebel then. Yeah, fair enough. Rebel then. So yeah, Riho and Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker and Rebel. Jack, who do you have in mind?
I'm going Riho and Thunder Rosa. I think like Rebel and Dr. Britt Baker have had their way with Thunder Rosa for a long while. Again, it's a pre-show match, so I think Britt Baker losing wouldn't be the worst in the world, and plus it's Rebel, so Rebel can easily take the fall. I don't see nothing wrong with like Rebel or Reba as an in-ring performer, and I don't mean this to disparage her work or whatever, but like character-wise and the way they're presented, the way she's presented as a kind of a weak link kind of thing, but that like obviously doesn't reflect she's a good wrestler, but she's not supposed to be a good wrestler is what I mean, like by her character. And if you look at like Riho, Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, like she's the odd one out, so I'd imagine that would lead to her winning, or to her taking the fall, and it might keep the Thunder Rosa Britt Baker feud alive, but possibly. But I also I listened to Tony Khan, and he teased as well that he said Rebel came into me yesterday with a doctor's note to say that she can't compete. So he said either way, whether she can compete or not, there's going to be a match. So it could lead to them introducing someone else maybe, but I'm still going to go Riho and Thunder Rosa.
Yeah, I mean, as of now, it's Rebel is in the match, so I don't know. And yeah, like that, with matches like this, I tend to look at, you know, who can afford to take a fall here, and like you said, the odd one out is Rebel. So I am going Riho and Thunder Rosa to pick up the win. Riho, obviously, like Thunder Rosa has been, you know, a star of AEW's women's division since she isn't officially signed, but like since she came in, and Rio, former world champion, just came back. They're going to get the win. It's just that's just the way it is. And next up is a match that is, I mean, I like to look at this match. I'm calling it an AEW flex. This is AEW flexing, and it is the Casino Tag Team Battle Royale for a future AEW World Tag Team Championship match. Winners become number one contenders. And this is just showing the absolute depth of the AEW Tag Team division. I mean, the fact that they can actually put this match on with this many teams, and there's still teams to be announced. I mean, it's probably going to be an absolute clusterfuck of a match, but just the fact that they can put this amount of tag teams into one match. So, okay, deep breath. We have Bear Country, Bear Boulder and Bear Bronson versus the Dark Order, represented by Alex Reynolds and John Silver, versus the Dark Order, represented by Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, versus the Inner Circle, represented by Santana and Ortiz, versus the Butcher and the Blade, versus Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn, versus Top Flight, Darius Martin and Dante Martin, versus Death Triangle, Pac and Ray Phoenix, versus the Varsity Blondes, Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr., versus Matt Sydal and Mike Sydal, versus SoCal Uncensored, Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels, versus the Natural Nightmares, Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall, versus the Chaos Project, Luther and Serpentico, and more teams to be announced, or probably will be surprises on the night. Jack, who do you have and why there?
I'm going to go SoCal Uncensored. They've been doing this thing of, are they going to break up? Are they not? Or if they lose, they're going to disband or whatever. So I think it's going to lead to that, and I think it's going to lead to one more big match for them, and so I think it'll be SoCal Uncensored will pick up the win.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see it in the sense if they're teasing that, because I know Scorpio Sky is obviously gone in this like not a mini single run. He's been a singles guy for months now.
Yeah, can I ask? Actually, did I miss something, or did Scorpio Sky turn heel?
I don't remember him distinctively turning heel,
because he was on commentary last night for was it what's it, 10 and your man the rapper, what's his name?
It's Caster.
Yeah, Caster, and he was on commentary for that, and like he was just healing it up, like he was just being like, like it doesn't matter who wins this match. You're looking at the next TNT champion. I'm too tough and I'm too pretty for everyone in this ring. And he was like, I am coming off an injury, but me at 50% beats these two men in the ring at the same time at 100%, and stuff like this.
Yeah, maybe it's just when wrestling promotions try to push like Big E in the New Day, they're like this new serious intense singles version of Big E.
But it wasn't even a serious intense version, because he was doing things then like tensing with his arms and kissing his muscles and stuff like that. Like it was all heel tactics. So I was like, did I miss something? Was there AEW's track record of putting stuff on BT that you fucking never see on TV, and then all of a sudden there's a character change you don't know about? Was that maybe? I'm not sure, but he's definitely leaning more towards a heel.
Interesting. I don't know. I don't think there was a clear heel turn, because I think I definitely would have known about it if it did. Yeah, both would have. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose.
Sorry, anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off. Who do you have in mind for the?
No, you always do. You always cut me off. Just to do it, just to spite me. Yeah. Anyway, SCU. Are they officially breaking up? Could be. They've had a good run. Christopher Daniels. He is getting up there in age. He's 51 now, is he? 51, 52. And still can go and is still quite good, but he has to be realistic here, and if he wants any kind of quality of life post wrestling career, the sooner he hangs them up, the better, I suppose. But I'm not going SCU. I am going the Dark Order, represented by Reynolds and Silver. Because I think they've been absolutely crushing it, I think, over the last few months, especially like the Dark Order in general, like the whole Dark Order, I think has been very good. But I think, and like, I'm not just saying, since Brody passed away, I'm like, before that even, I think they were doing very well. I think they were finally finding their kind of niche.
Yeah.
And finally finding their groove. And then obviously, the terrible tragedy of Brody Lee's passing, and then that kind of threw the question of the Dark Order up in the air. What was to become of them? And they've stuck together, which I suppose was a bold thing to do, and mightn't have paid off. Could have been risky, but it's worked so far. And just for me, man, I've become such a fan of John Silver over the last few months. I just think he's so good. I think he's just so entertaining, and he's so funny. He's so funny. Like, did you see that spot on Dynamite this week where
I was just going to talk about it?
Yeah, him and Hangman against Matt Hardy, and was it Mark Quinn? Yeah. And like Silver gets sent into Hangman, and he just hugs him. But he's
it just looks so safe.
Yeah, and he's like, there is that, just like, because he is quite a bit smaller than Hangman, so he's just like up to his chest, and he just looks like so happy. And so I think what might happen here is, I think Reynolds and Silver might win. I could see it being like Reynolds, because I know the rules for this match. It both members need to be eliminated for a team to be eliminated. So I think what might happen is Reynolds might get eliminated early, and Silver might do the gauntlet, like might run the full match. And I think they might run because they are still trying to recruit Hangman. They are still trying to woo him. So, Reynolds and Silver can approach him and be like, oh, we're number one contenders now for the tag titles. We're not losers. You know what I mean? Like, you thought we were, join us. I mean, come on, because we're going to be tag champions and stuff. I think they could play into it like that. What they do after that, I don't know. But yeah, I think Dark Order, Reynolds and Silver win this match. But yeah, and like but who knows though? There's going to be more matches. We could even see some Impact slash New Japan guys potentially. Maybe is that too bold? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you wouldn't know.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. Time will tell, I guess. But yeah, we'll move swiftly on to another tag match. There's a big tag team, presence on this card. It is the team of Miro and Kip Sabian taking on Best Friends, represented by Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor. Who do you have and why, Jack?
Miro and Kip Sabian. I think if you're building, they're building, or they're trying to build Miro as this massive monster, like as he should be. So by that logic, I think he should tear through these two. You can protect Orange Cassidy. I could see some sort of shenanigans where they like barricade, or else handcuff Orange Cassidy to like a somewhere, and he can't get at him, and then they just beat the shit out of Chucky T. And so yeah, for that I'm gonna go Kip Sabian and Miro.
I actually disagree with you. I'm gonna go Best Friends for the win here. Because I think this is the conclusion of the feud. I think it should be the conclusion of the feud. This feels like it's been going on forever now. And like, it's not been the worst feud in the world, right? But it's been it's been weird, because obviously, like, Miro at one point, not that long ago, was literally the most over guy in wrestling. And like, he then obviously came into AEW, and there was so much hype behind him, because obviously, like, it's Miro, and the the restraints are off now in a way. You know, we're going to see him booked properly. And then, like, I understand you don't want to put him straight into the world title scene or whatever, like, because he is a strange character, because he is such a likable guy. You know what I mean? He is, like, the thing about him is he's actually such a natural babyface.
Yeah.
So figuring out what to do with him was tough, I think. But and then they settled on this, and it's been fine. There's been high points, there's been low points, there's been very low points. But I just wanted to be over. I just wanted to end, and I think best friends win. Sabian takes the pin, and then Miro is he's done with Sabian then, because he's like, you know, you're a loser, and then goes off and is a monster himself. He's like, the only reason I lost is because I have you hanging off me. And I think after the match, I don't think we'll get an interference, but we might get like a Trent appearance. I'm not saying he's going to return, but like an appearance for an big old hug to close the match. But yeah, I just want this feud to be done, and I think a babyface victory, because it feels like the heels have had the upper hand the whole time. Like, Trent got injured, Chuck Taylor was made a butler for a bit. So yeah, best friends for the victory.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So we'll move on. Next is a match that is strange to me. It just is. It is the Face of the Revolution ladder match for number one contendership for the AEW TNT Championship. It is Cody Rhodes versus Scorpio Sky versus Penta El Zero Miedo versus Lance Archer versus Max Caster versus one more mystery opponent to be announced. Jack, 2 predictions for this one. Who's the mystery opponent and who's winning?
The mystery opponent is one Shaquille O'Neal. They did the weird kind of tease thing yesterday where he was in the ambulance and then wasn't in the ambulance, and the one guy who was in the ambulance with him didn't know where he went, even though it's an ambulance. He's right in front of you. Like, he didn't vanish.
He's a 7'1" man. And
how do you lose a literal giant? Like, he's the most incompetent paramedic I've ever seen. But anyway, I think, I don't think, spoiler, I don't think Cody's winning this. I think this is a good way of protecting him. So I think Shaquille O'Neal's going to come out and he's just going to go after Cody, and then it'll set up a one-on-one singles match with Shaquille and Cody at some point, which I'd be down for, because I thought Shaquille O'Neal done excellent yesterday, and obviously it was more Cody doing the work. Like, Cody Rhodes, hats off to him. He was incredible yesterday. He was working his socks off in that ring and making Shaq look like a monster in the process, as he should be. So so I think I don't think it's over. They did the big table spot and stuff, and Shaq got carted away. So I think there's going to be a return match in this, maybe like a gimmick match, maybe like a tables match or a cage match or something like that. I could definitely see Shaquille O'Neal wrestling again. So for that, I think he's going to come out and just take Cody out of the match, and I think that will leave one Penta El Zero to win the Revolution ladder match and face Darby Allin on Dynamite next Wednesday.
Well, we have the same winner. I think Penta's winning this match too. Because I just think because I was looking right, and I don't think Cody's going to win it. I can't see Scorpio Sky winning it, and it's not going to be Max Caster, that fucking loser. But yeah, no, I mean, I think Penta is such a strange character in wrestling, because he's when him and Phoenix are together, they're one of the best tag teams in wrestling. The Lucha Bros are one of the best tag teams in wrestling, hands down. And then when they're broken up, they're 2 of the best singles guys in wrestling as well. But I think Phoenix, I think, is the better actual in-ring competitor. Penta is the better character guy. I would love Penta to go full heel go proper Pentagon Dark from Lucha Underground and just revert back to that, because that is the best version of Pentagon, or Penta or whatever. And I think him and Darby could have a really good feud, and I think it would be really good, and it could build to the next pay-per-view, I say. So yeah, I'm going Penta to win as well. I agree with you on that sense. For the mystery guy, now I had this one's tough because I don't know if it's going to be like a major guy. I don't think it will. This I've seen people saying this could be where Paul White debuts, the Hall of Fame signee guy. That seems kind of strange.
Tony Khan nixed that. He said in the AEW Unrestricted, he said who comes out in the ladder match is going to be different to who Paul White will reveal. So that's out of the question, I think.
Fair enough. So the only guy I could think of that makes sense, especially someone who wouldn't hurt them to not win it, is one all ego Ethan Page. His contract recently ran up with Impact. We saw that, of course, at what was it, Hard to Kill, where he got killed by himself. He has a past with Cody and stuff. They have a bit of a relationship, so I could see Ethan Page being the mystery guy. And yeah, he doesn't have to win exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. Next up, it is a big money match. Literally, it is Hangman Page versus Matt Hardy, where the winner will receive the loser's 2021 first quarter earnings. This is such an AEW stipulation, but anyway, I'm surprised it wasn't like their merch deal on Pro Wrestling Tees. But yeah, who do you have in mind?
Matt Hardy. I think it just further tells the story of the downward spiral that Hangman Page has been on, and which will make it all the way better when it leads to Kenny and Hangman goes over Kenny by the way things are looking. So to further kick Hangman while he's down before we build him back up, I think Matt's going to pick up the win here, but I don't think it's going to be clean. I think there's going to be some shenanigans. He's doing this gimmick where he's paying people off to attack people like the Dark Order and stuff last night. So I could definitely see a scenario where he pays someone to come out and cost Hangman the match, and then that will lead to Hangman feuding with whoever that is, and just continue to tell that story. So I think Big Money Matt is going to get the win.
Yeah, again, I agree with you. You practically stole the words out of my mouth. I think Matt Hardy win. It just pushes Hangman further down into the hole of depression that he's already in.
Yeah,
and I think this will actually work quite nicely into the Dark Order thing, because like Hangman's going to be broke now for the next couple of months, so he's going to be forced to turn to people. He doesn't want to go back to the Elite, so Silver's right there, being like, you still have a place with us. So he might, I'm not saying he might join them, but he might just pal around with them even more, kind of get their hopes up, which might push them away then when he doesn't eventually join them, and like push him further down into that hole of like, you're fucking loser. And then it'll just make it, again, if it has to end, of course, with him beating Kenny for the title. It has to end there. And if it doesn't, I'm going to be very sad, because this has been the saddest storyline otherwise.
No, I think it's fairly dead set in where this is heading. I think it might be all in or all out even, or else full gear. I think it might be full gear actually.
I reckon it'll be full gear. I reckon Kenny will get close to a year with the title. But yeah, I'm going Matt to win because it just makes sense, I think, in my head. Next up, it is the AEW Women's World Championship match. It is the AEW Women's World Champion Hikaru Shida defending her title against the 2021 Women's World Title Eliminator Tournament winner, Ryo Mizunami. Jack, who do you have in mind?
I'm going to go Hikaru Shida. I just think it isn't her time to lose it. And yes, they've built up Ryo Mizunami and with this tournament, but she just doesn't feel like the one to take the title off Shida either. So for that, I'm gonna say that Hikaru Shida retains.
Yeah. I mean, can I just say it? I think, obviously one major point of contention with AEW has been its women's division and its handling of such.
Mm.
And I think the women's tournament was one of the best things they could have done. I think it was a great way of highlighting women's matches, highlighting, different women competing. But I think they dropped the ball here. I felt like this was Britt Baker's tournament to lose.
Yeah, I thought that too. I thought it was a weird one to have her go out so early as well. It was a strange decision.
It wasn't just go out early for me. It was the fact that she lost to Nyla, and I could almost get over it if she lost to Thunder Rosa in the American final or something. But the fact that she lost to Nyla Rose, who didn't even win in the end.
Yeah, see, that was the thing as well. I could have done with seeing Britt Baker in the final, and even if she had lost, I would have still believed going in that Britt Baker could have won. When Nia in the final, I kind of knew, okay, Nia, they've done Shida and Nia now a lot. There's no way they're going to do that again when you've all these women that they've showcased now. So it kind of took me out of the final, really. I kind of knew where it was going. Whereas if Britt Baker was in it, it would have been 50-50 and I would have been a lot more interested in it. So it was a strange one. Again, they kind of seem hell-bent on going with Nyla. But then they've done this whole losing to the monster thing way too many times already with Nyla, I think. You kind of expect her to lose now, which you shouldn't. Nyla, for me, shouldn't have been in the tournament if she wasn't going to win it, and I don't think she should have won it. So I don't think she should be in the tournament. She should be kept as a special attraction. Someone like an Andre or even an Awesome Kong in TNA. Where they were very, very protected, but they're not protecting Nyla Rose. They're treating her like another wrestler when she isn't. She's someone who turns heads when she walks into a room. She's this menacing figure, and she should be treated as such. And she shouldn't be picking up as many losses as she has already. If you want to push her, so again, like you said, it felt like it was Britt Baker's tournament to lose, but it's just a strange call, I think.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Nyla Rose is a strange one because obviously there's no one like her in the women's division in AEW currently. I mean, they had Awesome Kong, but then of course she had to leave. But Nyla was there anyway. She was going to be her successor anyway.
Yeah, so sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but the Awesome Kong thing, because I kind of forgot that she was there until you just reminded me. But why did she leave? Was it to film Glow? Or so, what was it to do?
I don't know. I'll check. I'll just have a quick look and see if I can find the
Because
reason.
Glow's been cancelled now, so
yeah, I know that. Let's see. Yeah, she went she went on hiatus. All I can find here is that she joined, there was the Nightmare Collective, and that was poorly received by fans. The angle was dropped in February 2020, and she went on hiatus to film Glow. So maybe she's gonna come back. I don't know.
Yeah, strange one.
Yeah, it is a strange one. But yeah, I mean, and speaking of strange ones, and speaking of things that happened and just went nowhere. If you cast your mind back to, was it Full Gear? She'd defended the title against Nyla Rose again, and she'd won. And then after the match, Vicky slapped Nyla Rose and teased they teased kind of a Nyla face turn, and like nothing's happened with it since. I mean, I don't know. Like
I don't know who's in charge of their women's division.
Kenny.
I've heard that. I don't know if it's true, and I don't want to.
I think it is, because every time a women's match goes up, he's like very heavily promoting it.
Well, then, if that is the case, like something needs to be done.
I think it's Kenny and Brandy. I think Kenny and Brandy are behind it. I think.
Yeah. That doesn't. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Obviously, there's the issue that Brandy isn't exactly the most experienced person to be running a women's division, and like Kenny, I think it almost becomes a matter of burning the candle on both ends for Kenny, like, because he is also the face of the company at the minute. He's the top guy.
Definitely.
So
there's just been a lot of things. Like more in the in AEW, there has been a lot of things that they've started and haven't finished, but there has been a lot, and I'm just going off the top of my head here. Like there has been stuff like Rio in that tag match like a year and a half ago. I remember she pushed her tag partner down. I can't even remember who the tag partner was.
Yeah,
who was it?
And people that as well, because Yuka Sakazaki was someone, like, she is signed to AEW, and then obviously, you know, one of those cases where like she lives in Japan and then couldn't get over from Japan, and she had other commitments in other companies, and like she was in this tournament. This was like her first appearance in AEW in over a year, I said, and like you had Rio and Sakazaki in the same tournament, and you literally could have done something about it, and you didn't, and like they still haven't done anything about it, and it's hilarious because Jack the Jobber actually constantly pointed out.
Yeah, that's where I kind of got it from.
Anything Rio does anything, he's just like, yeah, that was great. That was a great match, Rio. Can't believe you just wrestled that match against Serena Deeb. Just please explain something to me. Why did you push down Sakazaki at Fighter Fest?
Yeah, like stuff like that, and you know the whole like you mentioned there about Nyla and Vicky and all this stuff, you know, it seems like they're trying to put the cart together while it's rolling downhill, you know what I mean? They're trying to put the wheels on the cart while it's already rolling. Like it just seems very dysfunctional compared to the rest of the show, because we just talked about Kenny and the story with Hangman, and that's a very well integrated and like well thought out story, and I just don't see that in the women's division at the moment, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I suppose I never get my pick. I'm going Sheeta to retain here as well. If it had been Britt Baker, I'd probably be going Baker to win to become new champion, but she's not there, so Sheeta to retain.
I think eventually fans are going to get sick of this if Britt Baker doesn't get a title shot soon. I feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I mean, there's
very
slow builds, but then there's you know, when your women's division is kind of hanging on by a thread, and that thread being Hikaru Shida, and you need someone to come along and take the reins, like, you know.
Yeah.
There's no harm in Britt coming in, and like the thing about, like, I know Shida lives in America, so that's obviously it's different to when Rio was champion, but like Shida's there 24/7. She can be there, but like Britt is it like literally from day one of AEW, she seems like she has been the cornerstone of the women's division. She was the first ever wrestler signed to AEW, and like she first ever woman anyway. I don't know the Bucks and Cody and stuff count, like, but you know, she has been the face of the women's division, kind of on accident at some points and also on purpose.
Yeah.
And like over the last like year, especially in 2020, she has come on leaps and bounds in terms of promos. I mean, she was always good in the ring. She was always talented, but like since turning heel, finding that character, finding that, you know, finding her confidence on the mic, she's kind of putting a total package together, a package that could definitely spearhead a women's division, and you could build a women's division around for years to come, because she is still only like 28 or something. She is still quite young, and like has years and years left in her. So yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think if Baker doesn't start at least competing in women's titles matches, then, you know, Shida could be, you know, pushed out really.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll move on.
We'll move on to a match that I never thought I'd ever say in a million years. It is Team Taz, represented by Brian Cage and Ricky Starks, taking on the AEW TNT champion Darby Allin and one icon, Sting, in a tag team street fight. Yeah, Sting's gonna wrestle. Obviously, he hasn't wrestled since 2015, Night of Champions, that obviously infamous night, where he suffered his career-ending injury in a match with Seth Rollins. And it seemed like he was done. You know, he was obviously, how old was he then? Like 55 or something. And, you know, it didn't seem like, you know, it seemed like that was the end. We'd never see another Sting match. We were wrong. And now he's going to wrestle. And yeah, I'm not. I'm so scared for this. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm also terrified for it, because obviously I'm terrified for Sting's safety. But I'm looking forward to it because it's Sting in a match, and I just, you know, that's what I want. You know, you can't not love Sting. So yeah, Jack, who do you have and why?
Sting and Darby Allin. I think Team Taz have enough equity to take a fall, especially someone like Ricky Starks, who's just starting out, more so in his AEW career, can take a fall early. So, and plus, you know, Sting's first match back, you want to give the fans a good sense and a good feeling for it. So with that being said, I'm going to go Sting and Darby Allin to pick up the win.
Yeah, fair. I'm going same as you again, going Darby and Sting, because like this now again, you know, the Team Taz and Darby Allin feud has been going on for ages now, and it's been a really good feud. I prefer this to like the Miro and Best Friends feud, but like, you know, it needs to come to an end, otherwise it is going to get boring. And this feels like the natural conclusion again. And yeah, Sting's not going to lose. I mean, famous last words, but you know, he's not going to lose his first match in the company. And yeah, it's Sting. Do you know what I mean? Ricky Starks and Brian Cage aren't going to be hurt by being beat by Sting. And do you think it'll be a cinematic match, or do you think it'll be normal?
I'm actually not sure. I would say if I was to bet, I'd say it'll be cinematic. But I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I could see both, but I would say cinematic, just to, you know, protect Sting a little. But then again, if he's signed to a multi-year deal, he's going to end up wrestling in front of a crowd at some point anyway, I'd imagine. So I'm not sure. But I would say it's cinematic, but I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Yeah. I'm not sure either. I reckon there could be cinematic aspects of it.
Maybe.
But I don't know. I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but also terrified. Like I said, well, I remember, I don't know that I said on the podcast what I just say to you, but like when Sting joined the company, I said like all I want is him and Darby Allin standing on a hill. One has a baseball bat, one has a skateboard, and they're fighting off legions of wrestlers while Linkin Park plays in the background, and I can live my vicarious emo dreams through them.
Any Linkin Park song in particular?
In the end, is that the song?
In the end, yeah, I was just gonna think.
Yeah,
I've come so far and got so far. Yeah.
Or Welcome to the Black Parade. just have that blaring. And we'll carry on, and like we're all and oh god, that'll be the best. So yeah, we'll move to the penultimate match of the night. It is the AEW World Tag Team Championship match. It is the AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, defending their titles against the Inner Circle, represented by Chris Jericho and MJF. Who do you have and why?
I'm going Chris Jericho and MJF.
Really?
Yeah. Because I think they're gonna do a swerve, bro. And I think Sami Zayn's going to help them, or Sammy Guevara is going to help them pick up the win.
Sami Zayn.
His documentary.
You think this whole MJF? You think this whole Sami and MJF thing has been a ruse?
Yeah, and then I think it'll be a short reign and the Bucks will win it back on like a Dynamite or something. I don't see him holding the title that long. But yeah, I think they'll swerve us and do Sammy to help him. Like Sammy will come out and it looks like that he's going to attack Jericho and MJF. Well, MJF specifically, and then he'll attack the Bucks and get them to, or then MJF and Jericho will pick up the win.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually hadn't even thought of that. I never even once stopped to think, is this a swerve, bro? But yeah. I mean, actually, could be. Now that you mention it, it actually would make a lot of sense. However, I'm gonna go with my gut instinct here, and I'm gonna go the Young Bucks to retain, and basically say what you said, but the inverse. Like Sammy comes out and he, I don't want him to cost the Inner Circle, because the Bucks are faces, and I don't think they should be winning by that like that. But
yeah, but like the Bucks are faces, but they're really not like.
No, I know. The Bucks are natural. The Bucks are natural heels. But I'm trying to think of a way for Sammy to interfere and cost the Inner Circle without turning the Bucks heel, if you get me. But I think Sammy does return here, and it sparks a feud with him against Jericho and MJF, and I think we might see the Inner Circle kind of splinter off. We might see like Santana and Ortiz side with Sammy or something, or we might see or Hager or something. Decides to go with Sammy. But yeah, I think we might see the start of like an Inner Circle civil war almost for a while, and then it will eventually culminate in a big Jericho MJF match again. I think where like it's been revealed that MJF actually wanted to destroy the Inner Circle or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going the Young Bucks to retain, because I think they'll I think they'll get quite a long run with the belts, because I think to avoid kind of to having to put the title on the Bucks and have that come to like, oh, the Bucks are always winning the titles, they'll just have like few and long title reigns, Yeah. So I reckon they're in for a bit of a reign before they drop that title.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. And finally, the match that, like, let's not bullshit ourselves. The match that we're all here for. It is the main event. It is the exploding barbed wire death match. Let me repeat that. The exploding barbed wire death match. And this isn't Big Japan Pro Wrestling. And it is for the AEW ship. It's Kenny Omega winning his title against Jon Moxley in an exploding barbed death match. So I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because like they had a match at Full Gear, and that was an unsanctioned match, and that was criticized for being too violent. do people have any idea what this is going to be? As in, like, do you realize what potentially we're about to witness?
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking barbed wire, I'm talking explosions, I'm talking death. And, like, I think genuinely, this is going to be like they're going to write someone off here as if they're going to die. I genuinely think this is like, I think, like, spoiler, I'm going Kenny Omega to win this one, to retain.
Yeah.
And I think he does it by literally murdering Moxley. As in, like, I think they need to write Moxley off TV for a while. You know, obviously Renee is pregnant at the minute. She's 6 or 7 months along now. I don't know. She's quite far.
It's close. Yeah,
it's quite far into it now. So, like, I reckon he'll want, like, because obviously he was the top guy of AEW for basically all of 2020. You know, he deserves a rest. Deserves a break, some time with his family. You know, be there for the birth of his child, and then.
But he's not.
You know,
she's going to go into labor during this.
Yeah, that's
he's going to send her into an early labor. Jesus Christ!
Send her into an early grave. She's going to die of a heart attack. But yeah, no. So I think Moxley's going to get a few months off TV as well, and I think, you know, he's still the IWGP United States champion now. I think they need to sort that out too. Obviously they had the opportunity to this past week, but they decided not to, probably because of the whole Kenny match. They didn't want him losing and then going into that.
But there's ways around that. You could have had Kenny get involved.
But the thing is, right? Do you really want Kenny Omega's return to New Japan be on New Japan Strong?
Okay, have Gallows and Anderson.
Oh yeah.
You know, you there is definitely ways around it. And I think this is a weird kind of New Japan call again, because he's probably going to take time off now, and the thing is going to go dormant again. Like.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, they need to sort that out. And the thing is as well, I find with, like, wrestlers who are like the top company, like Moxley was, he was the head of the company now, and in such, I mean, he was booked so brilliantly and so strongly. I think it's always reasonable to take them off TV for a bit, because it almost feels it feels weird then when they're not in the title scene.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Like, I think Moxley's one of these guys where he's either, like, in the title scene, like, looking for, or, you know, in the hunt, or he's just not around. I don't want him kind of floating, or, you know,
I think a
good
comparison would be Tommaso Ciampa. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's a guy who feels like synonymous with the NXT Championship now and should be constantly looking for the NXT Championship, and now he's not. He's in this tag team with Timothy Thatcher now, and I mean, it's fine. They're having good matches and stuff, but, like, it just feels weird that that's Tommaso Ciampa. That was the guy who was,
and he's definitely lost some momentum, you know, since that huge run, like, since he came back from injury.
Yeah, I mean,
he's definitely lost some momentum there, and I don't think they want to do that for Moxley. And I think they're protective over him as well. And I think, you know, 2 losses to Kenny Omega, he should go away for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, like, this is the match that you write someone off in. Like, do you know what I mean? This is one where you could feasibly.
Well, definitely, like.
Yeah.
I think this is designed for you not to be on Dynamite the next Wednesday, like.
Yeah, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Omega, Moxley, barbed wire. How do they get away with this? How do they actually get this booked?
Hey, he owns the building. He owns everything. It's an outdoor venue. Probably the best place to do it, like.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Like, I'm just trying to think. Like, is it gonna be, because, like, they're advertising it similar to the Onita matches, where there's literally barbed wire all around the ring, and then
he confirmed that on AEW Restricted, it's going to be barbed wire ropes, and when they hit off the ropes, that'll set off the explosives.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the way it sets up. It's set up. That kind of lends me to believe that the Sting match will be cinematic, because it'll give time then to take the ropes down and,
Yeah,
and put up. That'll be on before it. I would imagine.
early it would be.
So given that, yeah, I'm going Kenny Omega as well. Like, I think, it's time. I like, you're not going to take the title off Omega at the moment. And yeah, I just pray that both of them are okay after it. And like, hopefully they will be, and hopefully everything will be fine. And yeah, it'll be it's definitely a match you have to watch. It's like the I Quit match with Moxley and Kingston, where you're tuning in just to see what they do,
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, I think Kenny Omega's gonna pick up the win.
Yeah, he is. Like I said earlier, he's going to be champion for a while.
Yeah,
he's going to establish himself as the Kenny Omega of old, really, isn't he? So, yeah, and that's it. That's AEW Revolution.
Yeah, that's been us. Do you want to say something? I thought were you going to say something there?
No, I was going to say it's a stack show. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, that's been us. That was Debbie Keitel as well earlier.
Yeah, we want to thank her for coming on, and stay tuned because we confirmed some big guests yesterday. 2 guests in particular we confirmed yesterday, which are exciting. So fingers crossed that there's no further booking conflictions or whatever that prevents those from happening. But we've 2 big guests that we confirmed yesterday to come on. We have another one also confirmed. We confirmed a few weeks back. So looking forward to those. And yeah, it'll be an interesting time as we lead into WrestleMania. So yeah, because we haven't even we went through this whole podcast without even talking about Bobby Lashley winning the WWE title.
Yeah.
Which is massive news as well. But come our WrestleMania previews and stuff, we will talk more and more about that. So Billy, is there anything left for you to say?
No, other than I suppose follow us at JB Wrestling 1998 on Twitter. If you have any inquiries, email us at jbwrestling50 at gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, Just Because Wrestling. And yeah, that's about it, I think. That's been us. We'll see you next time. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.